Chapter 1. The Lost Child of a Forgotten World. In the endless, shimmering void of space, where distant stars pulsed like ancient beacons in the darkness, there drifted a cargo vessel that had long since been forgotten by history. Its hull was scarred from the passage of time, its markings eroded by cosmic winds, and its purpose lost in the tides of a universe that had long moved past the era of Earth's influence. This vessel, once a testament to humanity's great ambitions, had become nothing more than a relic of a past erased from the galactic stage, abandoned, lost, and silent. But all things, no matter how forgotten, eventually find their way back to the present. And deep within the cruel clutches of an alien empire that had enslaved the remnants of the human race, a 9-year-old girl was about to uncover a secret that would shake the galaxy to its core. The Torval Dominion was a vast, merciless empire spanning hundreds of star systems, ruled by a species of towering reptilian overlords whose might was unquestioned. To them, humans were nothing more than a relic of a primitive past, an extinct people whose homeworld had vanished into obscurity long before their rule. The Torval had conquered many species in their relentless march across the stars, but humans were a different case. They were an afterthought, a scattered, forgotten race that existed only in the margins of galactic history, their numbers so small that few even acknowledged their existence. Those who had survived had been taken as property, bought and sold like livestock, their origins unknown to most who owned them. One such girl, Alara, had been born into chains. She did not remember Earth, nor did she know of its past glories. To her, the mining colony of Torvis, X-47, where she had spent all 9 years of her life, was the only world that had ever existed. The mine stretched deep beneath the frozen surface of the moon, a labyrinth of tunnels carved through blackened rock, where slaves worked until their bodies could endure no more. The Torval masters rarely set foot inside the tunnels, leaving the daily operations to overseers, brutal, unfeeling creatures who ensured that no one ever stopped working. Alara had never known kindness. She had never known freedom. From the moment she could walk, she had been put to work hauling carts of raw minerals, sorting through jagged or with bleeding hands, enduring the suffocating dust that filled the tunnels. The older slaves spoke of rebellion in hushed whispers, but none dared to act. The Torval punished disobedience with swift and merciless execution, and hope was a luxury that none could afford. She had never seen the sky. She had never felt the warmth of a sun. She had never run through an open field or tasted clean water. Life was pain, toil, and survival. And yet, within her small, fragile body, there burned a fire that even the chains of her masters could not extinguish. She had always been different. The other slaves whispered about it, the way she could endure hardships that others could not, how her wounds healed faster, how her body seemed stronger despite her malnourishment, how, no matter how much they beat her, no matter how much she suffered, she never broke. She is a throwback, the overseers would mutter, using the alien term for humans who still carried remnants of their ancient resilience. A freak, a mistake. But the Torval never paid attention to such things. To them, she was just another slave, one among thousands, disposable. It was this disregard that allowed fate to slip through the cracks of destiny. One evening, as the exhausted slaves were marched back to their holding cells, Alara's tired, dirt-streaked form lagged behind the others. The weight of her chains dragged against the ground, her thin arms trembling from another day without food. She had long since learned to ignore hunger, to push past the pain of her existence. But tonight, something else gnawed at her, a whisper at the edge of her mind, an instinct buried deep in her bones. A feeling of wrongness. The mines were vast, stretching far beyond what any of the slaves had ever seen. They had always been told that the tunnels were endless, that no one had ever reached the bottom. But as Alara trudged along the narrow path, something caught her eye, a faint, flickering glow from the deepest part of the tunnel, where no slave was ever sent. Her heart pounded. No one ventured down there. It was forbidden. But something called to her. The overseers were distracted, their cruel laughter echoing through the corridors as they forced the others toward their cages. This was her chance. She moved quickly, slipping into the shadows, her small frame vanishing into the darkness. Her bare feet barely made a sound as she descended deeper, drawn by an unseen force. The air was different here, older. And then, she saw it. A massive, rusted door, partially buried beneath a collapsed tunnel, its surface covered in strange markings, human markings. Alara's breath caught in her throat. She didn't know why, but something inside her knew this was important. This was hers. She pressed a trembling hand against the metal. The door hissed. And then, with a groaning shudder, it slid open. A gust of stale air rushed past her, and Alara stepped forward, her wide eyes taking in the impossible sight before her. A ship unlike anything she had ever seen. It lay in the cavern beyond, half buried in the rock, its massive frame covered in dust and time. The metal was old, its surface scratched and battered, but the emblem on its side remained clear. A symbol she did not recognize. A symbol of a blue planet, wreathed in white clouds and endless oceans. It was the symbol of Earth. And inside that ship, hidden for over 8 centuries, was a treasure so powerful that when the aliens learned of it, they would freeze in fear. Alara had found something impossible. She had found the legacy of her people. And the galaxy would never be the same again. Alara stood there in the darkness of the long-abandoned cavern, her heart hammering in her chest as she stared at the wrecked vessel, the ship that seemed to hum with an ancient energy. The air around her was thick with dust and decay, the remnants of a world lost long ago. But the moment she laid her eyes on the ship, a strange sense of recognition washed over her. Her fingers trembled as she reached out to touch the cold, rusted hull. It felt strangely familiar, like she had always known it would be here, hidden away, waiting for her to find it. Her breath was shallow, her body trembling from both the excitement of the discovery and the fear of being caught. She had no idea how long she had before the overseers noticed her absence, or how much longer the others would remain locked away in their cells. But this moment, this was something bigger than her fear, bigger than everything she had ever known. She stepped closer to the ship, the faint, eerie glow of the forgotten technology beckoning her forward. The air inside the ship was stale, the ship's systems long offline, but the strange hum persisted, as though it was waiting for someone her to awaken it. The markings on the side of the ship were unmistakable. There was no mistaking the symbol of Earth, the ancient insignia that had once represented a world of immense potential. A world lost to time, a world whose name was now only whispered in hushed tones, if it was remembered at all. Earth. Alara's hands were shaking as she slowly moved toward the entrance. The door was sealed tight, but there was a small panel beside it. She hesitated for a moment, then pressed a finger to the panel. To her surprise, it responded with a soft beep, and the doors slowly began to part, revealing the dark interior of the vessel. The air inside smelled old, the remnants of something forgotten, but there was still something potent about it, a flicker of life that remained dormant for centuries. Her eyes adjusted to the dim light as she stepped inside, her senses flooded with the weight of the unknown. It was almost like walking into a forgotten dream, an echo of a time long past. The interior of the ship was a marvel of alien design, yet at the same time, there were unmistakable hints of human engineering. Alara could barely make sense of the technology that lay before her, but one thing was clear. The ship had been built to withstand the test of time, to endure through ages of neglect. The walls were lined with strange, pulsating conduits that hummed with life, and the floor was covered in dust, evidence of how long it had been since anyone had set foot inside. But the most startling thing of all was the ship's central chamber, a massive room filled with rows upon rows of containers, each one encased in a soft, glowing light. Alara couldn't help but feel an overwhelming sense of awe as she walked further inside, drawn by the mystery that seemed to radiate from every corner of the ship. Her eyes were fixed on a large, ornate pedestal at the center of the room. Upon it lay a glowing object, suspended in a shimmering field of light. The object was round, its surface smooth and polished, and it pulsed with a strange energy that seemed to beckon her. She had no idea what it was, but instinct told her it was important. This was the treasure of Earth, the legacy of a planet that had long since fallen into the dark corners of the galaxy's forgotten history. Alara's hand reached out slowly, her fingers brushing against the surface of the object. A surge of energy coursed through her body the moment she touched it. It was as though the ship, the object, and the very essence of Earth itself were suddenly alive within her. Her heart raced as the object began to hum in response to her touch, the glowing light intensifying until it enveloped her entire being. It felt as if the ship was waking up, as though the slumbering relics of Earth's past were stirring once again. Then, As if by some unknown force, the object's light dimmed, and a series of holographic images projected into the air before her. Strange, alien symbols flashed across the room, the lights swirling in a chaotic dance. Alera's breath caught in her throat as the images shifted, forming what appeared to be maps of distant star systems, of places she could never have imagined. And there, at the center of it all, was a symbol and emblem that she recognized. It was the same symbol that adorned the side of the ship, the symbol of Earth, the emblem of a planet that had once been a beacon of hope and discovery. The image shifted again, this time focusing on a series of symbols that Alera couldn't decipher. It wasn't just a map of the stars, it was a map to something far more important, something hidden away for millennia. It was a treasure of unimaginable power, a key to a legacy lost to the galaxy, and it was waiting for her to find it. Chapter 2. The Awakening of Earth's Legacy. Alera stumbled backward, her heart pounding in her chest as the final image settled in front of her. The symbols on the hologram began to shift, slowly forming an outline of a galaxy she didn't recognize, a galaxy far beyond the reaches of the Torval Dominion's known territories. The central point of the map seemed to pulse with a strange energy, as though it was calling to her, urging her to follow its path. The more she stared at the projection, the more she felt something deep within her stir, something that seemed to connect her directly to this ancient, forgotten treasure. It was as if the ship was telling her something that had been waiting for centuries for the right person to unlock its secrets. She blinked, trying to focus, but her mind was racing, overwhelmed by the sheer magnitude of what she was witnessing. She had always known she was different from the other slaves who had been taken from Earth and scattered across the galaxy. The others spoke of Earth as if it was a myth, a story passed down from generation to generation. But to Alera, Earth was more than a myth. It was something buried deep within her soul, something that was calling out to her now, as if the very essence of her heritage had been awakened by this ship. The hum of energy grew louder, and Alera felt a sudden surge of power course through her body. The ship was responding to her, responding to the connection between them, and she could feel it, the legacy of her people flowing through her veins. But there was more to this discovery than just the ship itself. The holographic map wasn't just a relic, it was a guide, a pathway to something far greater than anyone could have imagined. And it was her destiny to uncover it. With a shaky breath, Alera reached out again, her fingers brushing the surface of the glowing object. As soon as her touch made contact, the room around her shifted. The light dimmed, and the holographic images began to swirl and merge into a single point. A soft voice echoed through the chamber, speaking in an ancient tongue that Alera couldn't understand. But the meaning was clear. The voice was a call, a warning, and a promise. The legacy of Earth had been hidden for a reason, and now it was waiting to be claimed. The path was open, and Alera had been chosen to walk it. But the moment the voice faded, a new sound filled the air, a sharp, mechanical clank. Alera's heart skipped a beat as she turned, realizing that she was no longer alone. The ship's doors had sealed shut behind her, and from the shadows, a pair of glowing eyes emerged, watching her with a cold, calculating gaze. The shape that emerged from the darkness was unmistakable, an alien, one of the Torval overlords who had enslaved her people. It was tall, towering above her with its reptilian form, its eyes fixed on the object in her hands. "You've found it," the Torval creature hissed, its voice laced with both awe and menace. "The treasure of Earth. The key to everything." Alera froze, her breath caught in her throat as the alien advanced toward her, its claws clicking against the metal floor. She had no idea what it wanted, but one thing was clear: this discovery was no longer just about her. The power of Earth's lost legacy had drawn the attention of those who would stop at nothing to claim it. "Don't be foolish," the Torval continued, its voice low and dangerous. "You are no longer in control. Hand over the artifact, and maybe you'll live to see another day." Alera's mind raced. She was just a child, but the weight of what she held in her hands was enough to shift the balance of the galaxy. And the alien before her? He was here to take it from her. But Alera wasn't going to give up. Not now. Not when she had discovered the truth about who she was. The legacy of Earth wasn't just a treasure, it was her birthright. And no one, not even the Torval, could take that from her. She lifted the object higher, and the room seemed to pulse with power as the ship's energy surged. The Torval froze, its glowing eyes widening in shock. It wasn't just a piece of Earth's history that Alara held, it was a key that would change everything. As the ship hummed around them, Alara took a deep breath and made her decision. This was just the beginning. The galaxy would never be the same again. Alara's heart raced as the glowing alien creature in front of her slowly stepped forward, its towering form casting long, dark shadows across the room. It was not just a mere overseer, it was one of the high-ranking Torval, a commander, judging by the insignia on its chest. Its eyes glowed with a cold, calculating light, locking onto the object she held in her hands, the mysterious treasure of Earth. The creature's sharp claws scraped the metal floor with each step, its breath coming in slow, deliberate exhalations that reverberated through the chamber. For a moment, Alara's mind went blank, her thoughts consumed by a single realization. She was no longer just a lost, forgotten slave. She had found something greater than herself, something the universe had been waiting for, and now the very thing that could change the fate of countless worlds was in her hands. But the Torval were here, and she wasn't alone anymore. "Give it to me." The Torval's voice came low and filled with menace, its reptilian mouth barely moving as it spoke. The air around them seemed to crackle with an energy that was alien, yet familiar, as though the ship itself was responding to the creature's presence. "You don't understand what you found, little girl. You cannot comprehend what this means." Alara's pulse quickened, but she wasn't about to be intimidated. Her small fingers tightened around the object, feeling its strange warmth and pulsing energy, as if it were connected directly to her heart. It was as if the artifact had come alive in her hands, reacting to her touch, urging her to protect it. The ship's hum intensified, and the air seemed to thicken, filled with a power she could no longer deny. "No," Alara said, her voice trembling at first, but growing stronger with each word. "I don't care what you want. This is mine. This is my world. It's my people's treasure. I will protect it." The Torval's cold gaze flickered for a moment, its glowing eyes narrowing, studying her. It seemed amused by her resistance, as if it expected her to cower before its strength. But there was something in Alara's stance now, something more than just defiance, a spark, a fire that burned with the knowledge of her own birthright. The ship, this relic of Earth, had chosen her. She had been drawn to it for a reason, and she wasn't about to let it fall into the hands of an alien overlord who knew nothing of its true power. The Torval took a step forward, its massive form casting a long, threatening shadow over her. "You cannot fight the inevitable, child. Hand it over, and perhaps I will allow you to live. Otherwise, you will die here, and the treasure will be taken anyway." Alara didn't flinch. She wasn't going to back down. The thought of surrendering to this creature, this symbol of the empire that had enslaved her people for centuries, was unthinkable. The knowledge of what she held in her hands, the ancient power of Earth's legacy, surged through her veins, a quiet yet potent voice whispering in her mind. She was not powerless. She was not just another forgotten human. The ship itself responded. Alara felt the shift in the air around her, the very walls seeming to pulse with life, as if the ancient vessel was aware of the tension between them. The holographic images from earlier flickered, the alien symbols rearranging themselves once again. The maps of distant star systems, the strange geometric patterns, they seemed to shift, moving in a way that Alara could not comprehend, yet somehow understood. This ship was alive, connected to Earth's lost history, and it had chosen her to uncover its secrets. Before the Torval could take another step, the air around them rippled. Alara stepped back, her heart pounding in her chest. The object in her hands began to glow more intensely, and a low hum filled the chamber. She had no idea what was happening, but she felt the power of the ship surging through her, filling her with energy. The ship was reacting to her, protecting her. It was as though it had recognized her as its rightful heir, its guardian. "No," the Torval hissed, its tone now tinged with desperation. "What have you done?" Alara didn't have time to answer. The light from the object grew brighter, surrounding her in a radiant, pulsating glow. The Torval staggered backward, its claws raised in a futile attempt to block the light, but it was too late. The chamber erupted in a flash of searing light, and Alara felt herself being pulled into the heart of the ship, the very core of its energy. In the blink of an eye, the world around her seemed to dissolve, and Alara was no longer standing in the dim, cold chamber. Instead, she found herself surrounded by an entirely different space, a vast, infinite expanse filled with stars and strange constellations. The sensation was overwhelming, like she had been transported to another dimension entirely. And in the center of it all, there was a glowing figure human, or something like a human, standing before her. The figure smiled warmly, its features soft and calm. Its eyes were full of ancient wisdom, the kind that Alara had never known, the kind that spoke of untold knowledge and time itself. "You are ready," the figure said, its voice resonating in her mind. "You are the chosen one, Alara. The ship has awakened, and now you must awaken the galaxy." Alara felt her knees weaken as the weight of the words settled on her. The chosen one? Her? But how? She was just a girl, a slave, a forgotten remnant of a world that had been erased from history. How could anyone be ready for something this monumental? But the figure spoke again, its voice a soothing balm against her confusion. "Your people, Alara, are not gone. They are here, in the stars, waiting to rise again. The treasure you hold is a beacon, a key to Earth's legacy. The galaxy is on the brink of change, and you are the one who will ignite that change. The Torval, they seek to destroy it, but they cannot. Not now, not with you here." The figure's eyes glowed brighter, and Alara felt a rush of warmth flood through her body, as if the energy of the universe itself was flowing into her. She could feel the ship's power pulsing inside her, its ancient knowledge beginning to align with her own memories. She was no longer just a child enslaved by aliens. She was the last hope of Earth, the key to its resurrection. "You are not alone," the figure said, its voice softening. "Others will come. The time of the humans is not over. Earth will rise again." Before Alara could respond, the figure raised a hand, and the stars around her began to shift, the galaxy opening up before her. She could see planets, distant and strange, star systems she had never known. And in the distance, she saw it the symbol of Earth, glowing brightly, a beacon calling out across the stars. Then, just as suddenly as it had come, the vision faded. Alara was back in the chamber, the ship's hum steady and comforting around her. The Torval commander had fallen to the floor, stunned and unable to move, his eyes wide with shock. The light from the object in her hands had dimmed, but the knowledge and power it had granted her remained. She looked down at the artifact in her hands, feeling its energy flow through her. She was no longer just a child. She was no longer a slave. She was Earth's legacy, and she had a mission now. The galaxy was waiting for her. Chapter 3: The Spark of Rebellion. Alara stood in the heart of the ship, the weight of her newfound purpose heavy in her chest. The Torval commander, still stunned from the flash of light, was slowly regaining consciousness. But Alara wasn't focused on him anymore. She wasn't afraid of him, not anymore. The power she had just felt, the connection to Earth's legacy, was coursing through her, and she knew that her life had changed forever. The ship around her hummed, alive with energy. The lights flickered and pulsed, almost as though the vessel itself was responding to her presence. She could feel the faint, distant pull of the galaxy planets, star systems, the treasure she had discovered calling out to her. There was so much she needed to understand, so much she had yet to uncover, but one thing was certain. The galaxy was on the verge of something monumental, and she was going to be the one to bring it to life. The alien commander stirred, slowly standing up, shaking its head as if trying to clear the disorientation. Alara's heart raced. It would try to stop her. It would try to take the treasure. It would try to destroy Earth's legacy once again. But Alara wouldn't allow that. She couldn't. The Torval staggered to its feet, its claws still twitching as it looked at her, eyes full of rage and confusion. You think you can control this?" the commander hissed, its voice strained. "I don't need to control it," Alara said softly, her voice steady. "It's already mine. It's already part of me." The commander lunged toward her, but before it could strike, Alara lifted the object. A flash of light erupted from it, and the alien was thrown back, crashing into the ship's wall with a force that left it stunned. The room shook, but Alara stood tall, her eyes glowing with the power she had unlocked. "No one is going to stop me," she said, her voice full of unshakable resolve. The first spark of rebellion had been ignited. Alara stood amidst the wreckage, her heart racing, the Torval commander writhing in pain on the ground. The power that surged through her was like nothing she had ever felt before, something ancient, something born of the very legacy of Earth. The ship was alive with her, responding to her touch, to her will. She could feel it, deep in her bones. She had no idea how this would unfold, how the galaxy would react, but there was no turning back now. The commander's eyes, still wide with disbelief, locked onto hers. He was slowly rising, his body twitching with the aftermath of the shockwave, but his rage only intensified. The creature snarled, his massive form shaking with fury as he struggled to stand. "You, human filth," the Torval growled, his voice a low, guttural hiss that reverberated through the room. "You have no idea what you've just awakened. You have no idea what this will cost you." But Alara stood firm, the object still glowing softly in her hands, the light casting strange shadows on her face. She felt a connection to something far bigger than herself, something that was as much a part of her as the blood in her veins. She could feel the ship, and she could feel the whispers of Earth's history calling to her, urging her forward. "I know exactly what I've awakened," Alara said quietly, but her voice rang with confidence. "I've awakened the truth. The truth that you and your kind tried to bury. The truth of Earth, of my people. And I won't let you destroy it." The commander let out a low, furious growl, his reptilian features twisting with anger. "You think you can defy the Torval Dominion? You think your weak little human body can withstand the power we command? You'll be crushed under the weight of our empire." Alara felt the ship hum again, its energy vibrating through her fingertips. She could sense its response to the commander's threats, the way the ancient technology resonated with the desire to protect her. The galaxy's balance had shifted, and she was no longer the helpless child, enslaved and forgotten. She had become a force unto herself, the embodiment of Earth's long-buried legacy. The walls of the chamber seemed to pulse with a strange, palpable energy, the ship aligning with Alara's will. The Torval raised his arm, preparing to strike, but before he could make a move, the room exploded in a blinding flash of light. The commander was thrown back again, his body crashing into the far wall with a sickening thud, his strength faltering as the power of the ship overwhelmed him. For a brief moment, everything was still. Alara exhaled slowly, the light dimming. The ship's hum returned to its steady pulse, and she stood there, breathing heavily, her heart racing. She had done it. She had stopped the commander, but she knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy would respond. The Torval would retaliate. They would come for her, for the treasure she had unlocked, for the legacy of Earth that she now carried. But Alara was no longer afraid. She turned, her eyes scanning the chamber, the holographic map still flickering in the air. The path was clear now. Earth's legacy was no longer a forgotten relic. It was a beacon, a signal that would call out to those who had once been lost, those who had been scattered across the galaxy, waiting for the moment when they could rise again. She wasn't just a child anymore. She was a leader, a beacon of hope for those who had been forgotten. The power of Earth was hers, and she would not let it slip away. Chapter 4. The Awakening of a New Era. The ship groaned as Alara moved through its corridors, her small hands gripping the walls as she explored its depths. She could feel the ship vibrating beneath her, almost as if it were alive, its power pulsing through every fiber of its being. The holographic maps continued to flicker and shift, showing distant star systems, hidden secrets, and forgotten places. It was as though the ship itself was guiding her, urging her to follow the path it had laid out. And for the first time in her life, Alara knew what she had to do. She was no longer a mere survivor. She was the key to something far greater than she could have ever imagined. Her mind raced as she thought about what the Torval commander had said. They had underestimated her, thinking that she was just a child, weak, defenseless, insignificant. But they had failed to realize the truth. Alara had been chosen. The artifact, the ship, and the energy that had surged through her, this was her destiny. And now that she had unlocked it, there was no turning back. She had seen the way the galaxy trembled before the might of the Torval, their empire spreading like a dark cloud over the stars, crushing everything in its path. But she knew now that Earth's legacy was not just a treasure to be guarded, it was a weapon that could shift the balance of power in the galaxy, a weapon that could topple the Torval and their iron grip over the stars. But Alara wasn't the only one who knew this. The Sakari, a long-lost alliance of humans and other rebel factions, had been searching for Earth's legacy for centuries. They had whispered about it in the shadows, trying to piece together the scattered remnants of history. The legends spoke of a child, the last human who would awaken Earth's power and lead the way to freedom. And now, Alara understood. She was that child. The Torval weren't the only ones who would come for her. The Sakari, too, would be watching, waiting for the right moment to act. The galaxy was on the brink of something monumental, and Alara was right in the center of it all. Her hands trembled slightly as she approached the ship's control room, the place where all the maps and systems converged. The console flickered to life as she stepped forward, its holographic interface responding to her presence. She pressed a button, and the screen expanded, showing a detailed map of the galaxy. The lines on the screen glowed, marking systems, ancient sites, and hidden planets Earth's forgotten legacy scattered across the stars. Each location was a potential key to unlocking Earth's power, and each one held a promise of a future that could be rewritten. A message flashed across the screen, one Alara had never seen before. Incoming transmission. She hesitated for a moment, then activated the comms. The screen flickered, and a familiar face appeared: Captain Neela Rowe, leader of the Sakari resistance. She had been searching for Earth's legacy for years, and now, she was looking directly at Alara. The woman's face was weathered and tired, but her eyes burned with a fierce determination. "Alara," Neela said, her voice calm but filled with urgency. "We've been watching. We know what you found. The Torval will come for you. They'll send everything they have. But you don't have to face them alone. We're ready to fight." Alara felt a surge of hope. The Sakari had been waiting for someone to lead them, someone who understood what Earth had once been and could restore it. She had thought she was alone in all of this, but now, she realized that she had allies, people who had fought for this day for longer than she had been alive. "I know," Alara said, her voice steady. "I'm ready. We're going to take back what was lost. Earth will rise again." Neela nodded, a hint of a smile playing at the corner of her lips. "The galaxy won't know what hit it." With that, the transmission ended, and Alara stood alone once again, staring at the map in front of her. The galaxy had been fractured, divided by power-hungry empires and fractured alliances, but Alara could see the path now. The power of Earth was more than just a treasure, it was a light in the darkness, a beacon that would unite those who still believed in freedom, in justice, and in the hope that a single spark could ignite a new era. She reached out, her fingers brushing the console, and the ship responded, its energy surging once more. The legacy of Earth, once lost to time, was now in her hands, and she was ready to lead the way. The fight for the galaxy was just beginning.